Welcome to Whispers and Confessions. There might be a twist waiting, so please make sure to watch until the end. Don't forget to subscribe and like. Let's begin right away.
Hello, my name is Connor, and I'm 33 years old. I work at a cosmetics company. Because of the nature of the industry, most of the employees are women, and I'm the only male employee. The reason I joined this company, where the majority of the staff are women, actually has to do with my sister. She had been struggling with skin issues that made her self-conscious, causing her to walk with her head down. I wanted to become an expert in skincare so that I could help her walk proudly again. Since I joined with this purpose in mind, I was prepared for the fact that there wouldn't be many male colleagues. But I hadn't realized just how few there would be until I started. Turns out, it was just me. Being the only man, I naturally ended up handling tasks that required strength or reaching items from high places. That said, being in this environment as the only guy wasn't all bad. The older women treated me fondly, like a little brother. My peers treated me as a friend, and the younger women saw me as someone they could rely on. Thanks to that, I actually enjoyed my work a lot. Even though I was surrounded by women all day, I didn't have a girlfriend. No one at work looked at me in that way, and outside of work, I didn't have many opportunities to meet people. I used to think it would be nice to have a girlfriend someday. Little did I know that a company trip would lead to my wish being granted, or that I'd find myself in an unexpected romantic situation. Would you like to hear my story? One day, during our lunch break, our boss Layla, a 41-year-old woman, made an announcement. Everyone, our recent sales performance has been fantastic. It's all thanks to you. So, as a small token of appreciation, how about a company trip to a luxury beach resort? The women were immediately excited, cheering with yes, and I can't wait. I watched them with a smile, but a small concern crossed my mind. If we go on a trip, there'll probably be a party, and everyone will be drinking. I know how wild these ladies can get when they drink. We'd had a company party at the end of last year, and I remembered just how uninhibited things got. People started making raunchy jokes, some even tried to take their clothes off, and they acted like they forgot I was even there. It was a real test of my self-control. Thankfully, the party had ended before things got out of hand, but this time, we'd be staying overnight. There would be no place to escape. I couldn't help but feel uneasy about what might happen if things got too rowdy. To make matters worse, given that this is a cosmetics company, all of the women are incredibly attractive. The idea of being surrounded by these beautiful women at a party where they might get a little too relaxed was honestly terrifying to me. Still, I couldn't voice my concerns while everyone was so excited, so I had to keep my worries to myself. In the end, the company rented out an entire luxury beach resort for us. As the trip approached, I was feeling more and more anxious. When the day finally arrived, I got to the meeting spot on time and joined the group of women, making small talk as we headed to the resort. At first, everything was calm and fun. We swam in the ocean, played beach volleyball, and had a great time. Then, dinner rolled around, and we enjoyed a wonderful meal together, toasting to our success. About an hour later, though, my worries began to materialize. People started to get tipsy. We were all in bathrobes after swimming, and the women's robes were starting to slip a little. I tried to avert my eyes, but it was difficult, as some of them weren't wearing anything underneath. As some of the women's robes slipped more, I found myself increasingly flustered. Honestly, I wish they'd remember there was a guy in the group. The situation only grew more intense as time went on, and I could feel my self-control slipping. Just when I was thinking about stepping outside to cool off, our boss Layla called out to me. "Connor, where are you going?" She was clearly tipsy, her robe slipping off her shoulder. It was impossible not to be affected seeing her like that up close. "Why are you still wearing your robe, Connor?" she asked, holding onto my arm. Why are you taking yours off?" I responded without thinking. "Haha, why was that again?" she mumbled, clearly too far gone to answer. While I was talking to Layla, another colleague, Grace, snuck up behind me and hugged me. "I found you, Connor," she said with a grin. Grace is my age, 33, and has a warm and inviting presence. Her embrace made my heart race. Grace is a woman with a charming, confident air and a curvy figure. When she hugged me, I couldn't help but react. Come on, Connor. Relax a little, she laughed, tugging at my robe. Ah, careful. It's going to rip. I protested, but she was surprisingly strong, and soon enough, my robe was off. I glanced back at Layla, hoping for some assistance, but she was looking the other way. Just then, Zoe, a 26-year-old junior colleague, joined in. Ooh, what's going on over here? She exclaimed loudly. Zoe, shuh. I tried to calm her down, but by then, everyone's attention was on me. Oh, are we having a little party over there? Someone called out, and before I knew it, a group of women had gathered around me. Help, I muttered, but no one seemed to hear me. I was completely surrounded, and Grace, in particular, was being very forward. Is this okay? Grace whispered, leaning in to kiss me. I could taste the alcohol on her lips, and my head was spinning. Physically, I was excited, but mentally, I was overwhelmed and unsure. With people watching, Grace looked at me and asked, You're really enjoying this, aren't you? Well, it's hard not to with so much happening. I stammered. Oh, then should I show you more? She teased. Soon, others chimed in with encouragement, and I could feel my resistance breaking down. It felt like being surrounded by a pride of lionesses. I tried to keep my composure, clinging to the last bit of my modesty, but it was no use. Eventually, I was left with no choice but to surrender to the chaotic energy around me. The night continued in a blur. By the end, it was just Layla, Grace, Zoe, and me in the room. Grace and Zoe seemed happy and content, and we all shared a laugh. I thought things were finally winding down. Then Layla spoke softly. I wanted to spend more time with you. She looked a little wistful, and I felt my heart twist. I had always admired her strength and poise, but seeing this softer side made me feel closer to her. Layla looked at me with a hint of disappointment and said softly, I really wanted to spend time with you. Her face had a slight sadness to it. Layla always carried herself with such confidence and grace, the epitome of a strong leader who could overcome any challenge. But tonight, with some alcohol in her system, she seemed more vulnerable, almost cute. It was a side of her I hadn't seen before. Hearing her say that she'd wanted to spend time with me made it impossible for me to turn her down. I gently wrapped my arms around her and said, It's okay. I saw her face brighten at my words, and I couldn't resist her charm. We became close that night. Some of the other women were still in the room, but they watched our closeness with playful smiles and even whispered to each other, The boss is really going for it. I was a bit embarrassed, but everyone seemed genuinely happy for us. Some even cheered her on with shouts of, Go, boss! Or, You've got this, Layla. It was surreal, but I let myself get caught up in the moment, and eventually, Layla and I shared a deep, tender connection. Afterward, everyone seemed to calm down, including those who'd been most lively. One by one, people started to drift off to their rooms, leaving just Layla, Grace, Zoe, and me. Grace stretched with a satisfied smile and said, That was fun. I was starting to feel more grounded, and I nodded, smiling back. Yeah, it seems like the party has calmed down, I replied with a small laugh. Zoe, too, grinned and added, I had a great time. Maybe I should really work on finding a boyfriend now. Then she turned to me with a smile and said, Don't worry, Connor. Tonight was just in the heat of the moment. I'm more into people my own age. She laughed as she said it, and I laughed too, feeling relieved. You'll have no trouble finding someone, Zoe, I said kindly. With that, Grace and Zoe decided to head to their shared room. I was finally able to stand up, and I turned to Layla, saying, Shall we go back to our rooms as well? Layla turned her gaze away and simply nodded, Yes. Her behavior seemed a bit strange, and I felt concerned. Are you sure you're okay? Did the drinks get to you? I asked gently. She gave a small smile and reassured me, I'm fine. Her steps seemed steady, so I walked her to her room just to be safe. Seeing this softer side of Layla, the normally strong and composed leader, made me feel a surge of protectiveness toward her. At her door, I said, Good night, intending to head back to my own room. But just as I was about to leave, she grabbed my hand. I looked back in surprise, and she seemed unsure of herself. Tonight, Layla was acting very different from usual. Concerned, I gently touched her forehead, wondering if she was feeling unwell. "Your forehead feels a bit warm," I murmured, just as she spoke. "I don't feel great. I don't think I'll be able to sleep alone tonight." Her voice was small and hesitant, and even though I sensed she might not be entirely serious, I couldn't help but feel a sense of responsibility. I didn't realize it was just her way of inviting me to stay. I followed her into the room, got her some water, and helped her settle into bed. I lay down beside her, keeping a respectful distance. "Are you feeling any better?" I asked. She responded by saying, "I think I'll be okay if you just hold me." I didn't think twice. I gently wrapped my arms around her, and as she nestled into my embrace, I noticed how small and delicate she felt in my arms. The woman who had always seemed so larger than life was suddenly vulnerable and close. Her scent was soft and comforting, and I felt my heart race a little. After a moment of silence, she asked quietly, "Did you have fun tonight? With everyone?" I hesitated. Fun might not be the right word, I said, choosing my words carefully. It was intense, but yes, I ended up enjoying myself in the end. Would I want to go through it again? I don't know. I gave her an honest answer. Then, she asked, "Who did you like the most tonight?" The truth was, I liked Layla the most. But I didn't want to make it seem like I was playing favorites, especially since she was the boss. I was worried that if I admitted I preferred her, it might affect the relationships within the team and create unnecessary complications. Right now, our workplace didn't have any issues with rivalry or tension among the women, and I didn't want to be the cause of any changes. So I decided it was best to avoid picking anyone specifically. "Oh, I didn't have any particular favorite," I said casually, trying to brush it off. Layla looked at me for a moment and then said, "I see." She didn't say anything more, and soon after, she seemed to fall asleep. I stayed with her for a while, feeling the warmth of her presence, and eventually drifted off as well. The next morning, I woke up before her and quietly slipped back to my own room. She looked so peaceful as she slept, and I didn't want to wake her. After freshening up, I headed to the breakfast area where the others were already gathering. Everyone greeted me with smiles and lighthearted comments like, "Last night was fun," and "Hope you had a good time." The mood was casual, and it felt like everyone had moved on from the wildness of the night before. But Layla was different. She wouldn't make eye contact with me. Normally, she'd greet me brightly, but today she seemed distant. I tried approaching her directly to say hello, but she barely responded. The trip ended on a high note for most people, but I couldn't shake the feeling of tension between Layla and me. Once I got home and unpacked, I found myself lying on my bed, going over her behavior in my head. I wondered if maybe she was just feeling unwell, but I dismissed that idea when I saw her interacting normally with the other employees. Did she regret what had happened between us? Had I done something to upset her? I kept replaying the events in my mind, getting lost in uncertainty and self-doubt. Work returned to normal, but Layla continued to keep her distance. She seemed to have built a wall between us, which made my heart ache. I found myself thinking about her constantly, wondering what had gone wrong, and it started to affect my mood more and more. About 2 months passed like this, and each day, I grew more frustrated and confused about her coldness. One evening, I found myself working late, and by chance, it ended up being just the two of us in her car on the way back. I couldn't hold it in any longer, and I reached over to gently take her hand. She looked at me, startled, a slight frown on her face. "Do you dislike me now? Did I do something wrong during the company trip? Did I say something hurtful without realizing it?" I blurted out. My words tumbled out, messy and disorganized, but I couldn't stop myself. Layla seemed surprised by my outburst. She hesitated, then finally spoke in a soft voice. "Please don't talk to me as if I meant nothing to you." "If you didn't mean anything to me, I wouldn't be asking you this directly," I replied, trying to keep my voice steady. When I first joined the company, I'd admired Layla as a leader. I'd thought of her almost as an ideal to aspire to. But after the trip, after seeing her softer side, I couldn't stop thinking about her. Somewhere along the line, my feelings for her had changed. I realized that I didn't just respect her, I was genuinely attracted to her. Hearing my answer, She looked down and said, I tried to be close to you that night because I liked you. I thought maybe if I made a move, you'd notice how I felt. But when I saw you with the others, I couldn't bear it. I looked away, but it hurt to see you with them. And then, afterward, when I asked who you liked the most and you said, no one in particular, it made me feel like I didn't matter to you at all. So I decided to give up and just move on. Her voice shook, and I realized she was trying not to cry. Then, she finally confessed, I liked you. I've liked you since you joined the company. I kept trying to drop hints, but you never seemed to notice. How could you be so oblivious? Her voice wavered as tears started to fall. Seeing her cry, I felt a wave of guilt and affection. Without thinking, I wrapped my arms around her tightly. I realized then how much I'd hurt her without even knowing, simply by trying to keep things neutral. I regretted not being honest with her from the start. Thinking back, I realized that there had been signs. She'd invited me out for drinks, asked about my type, and made an effort to talk to me often. But Layla was so impressive, so out of my league, that I'd never even considered she might be interested in me. It felt like I'd been blind to the most obvious thing right in front of me. Watching her cry in my arms, something stirred in me. I gently stroked her hair and leaned in to kiss her. I held her close, brushing her hair back as I kissed her gently. Layla, please don't cry. I like you too. I looked into her eyes, pouring all of my sincerity into my words. She looked at me, surprised, then tried to compose herself, reverting to her usual confident tone. Do you even know who you made cry? She teased, a small pout on her face. I'm sorry, I replied, genuinely remorseful. She sniffed, still looking a little upset, and said, I won't forgive you unless you promise to only look at me and only hold me from now on. Otherwise, I'll never forgive you. Her pout was so adorable that I couldn't help but smile. In the empty office, we held each other over and over, making up for the months of miscommunication. Her smile was radiant, and the way she looked at me made my heart feel like it was about to burst. That day, we became more than colleagues. We became something special. From then on, we began a relationship in secret. At work, she remained the same strong, confident leader everyone respected. But in private, she was sweet, affectionate, and a little clingy. She would often snuggle up to me and say, if you don't kiss me, I'll have a hard time getting through the day. Her affection was boundless, and being around her filled me with warmth and happiness. Our love grew deeper with each passing day, and after about 8 months, I realized that I wanted to spend the rest of my life with her. I decided to propose. I worried about whether a simple ring would be enough for someone as accomplished as her, but I chose one with all the love I could muster. When I proposed, she was overcome with emotion, crying tears of joy. Her honest, heartfelt reaction was one of the things I loved most about her. We laughed and cried together, making it a moment we'd never forget. Thankfully, she accepted my proposal, and we began planning our future together. When we announced the news to our families, the meeting went smoothly, and everyone gave us their blessings. At work, when we shared the news with our colleagues, they joked, oh, so the company trip was the start of it all. Did any of us even have a chance? But everyone was genuinely happy for us. Layla playfully told the team, from now on, no taking off clothes around Connor. Later, at home, she added with a hint of jealousy, I don't want you to be with anyone else like that. I promised, I'll only hold you from now on, Layla. And we shared another night full of love and laughter. Eventually, we officially registered our marriage, becoming a family. Even after marriage, we continued to enjoy each other's company and share every day together happily. At work, she remained the charismatic leader everyone admired, but at home, she was sweet and open with me. I fell in love with her all over again each day, captivated by both her strong and soft sides. 8 years have passed, and we're still as close and happy as ever. I love both her strength and her vulnerability, and I'm endlessly grateful for our life together. One day, out of curiosity, I asked her why she fell in love with me. She smiled and said, you're always so thoughtful, naturally considerate of everyone around you. You're kind without expecting anything in return, and you're reliable in a way that people barely notice because you do it so naturally. That's what I fell for. Plus, you have a steady and decisive side when you make up your mind. And of course, I love your smile. Hearing her say all that made me blush, and I decided not to ask any more questions. Today, we're planning to go deliver some recommended skincare products to my sister, who's still dealing with her own skin issues. It's amazing to think that the journey that started with my sister's skin concerns led me to this beautiful life with Layla. Reflecting on all that's happened, I feel grateful for everything. Thank you for listening to our story. If you have wonderful memories of your own, I'd love to hear them too.